name's Lene Goat. I'm the nutritionist for Head Start, and I'm part of our wellness committee here. And this is the fourth of, actually we're going to be doing another Lunch and Learn over the summer, but that one is going to be on better sleep. Yes, that's what we thought. How to get better sleep. But today we're going to be talking about physical activity, and I wanted to introduce Nicole Maurer, who is with Aetna and our I'm not
Health
sure
America.
Health America health consultant, and she does come to our wellness team meetings. And I'm going to let her talk a little bit, about her background and get started. But I just wanted to make sure that everybody has signed the sign-in sheet. Okay, to just record your attendance here. Okay, and I think without any further ado, we'll get started.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think we should turn the lights a little bit?
I can turn maybe the front.
Yeah. Are you guys cool with that? Is that all right? Okay. Great. All right. Well, hi. I'm Nikki Maurer, and I do work for Health America, Aetna, whatever you want to call us. But before I worked at Health America, I was a personal trainer for 10 years. So I have a little bit of experience in working with people on how to get more exercise and how to fit more exercise into their daily lives. And so I think that this is a good topic for me. Please feel free to stop me at any point if you have any questions. If you have something that's off topic that you want to ask, I do have some time hopefully at the end for questions, and I'd be happy to answer anything really. I brought you some exercise bands. We just happen to have them. We're not going to be doing exercises today. The sheet that I gave you is also a handout that we kind of already had made. It indicates some exercises that have handles, like bands with handles. Let me just say that bands with handles are very inexpensive, like TJ Maxx, Walmart, Kmart. So if you like the look of any of these, yeah?
We have two of those.
Sure, yes. If you like the look of any of these exercises that use handles, and that's a perfectly reasonable, inexpensive investment to get. And also, we're going to be doing a little bit of a workshop type thing. So you do need a pen. So that's why I also brought pens. So if you need a pen, I've got pens. Need pens? Yeah. So, you got it? Okay. All right. These are Health America pens, though. I don't know. Yes. Okay. So, without further ado, so today what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about how sedentary lifestyle will affect your health. So being physically inactive can be very bad for you. We're going to learn the benefits of exercise. We're going to talk about what the current recommendations are for exercise. We call it the exercise prescription. We're going to talk about tips and tools. And this is what I really want to spend time on today, are actual, real things that might actually help you get more physically active if that's something you're seeking in your life. And then, like I said, I do have some workshop type things, some papers that we're going to work on together to kind of help you get started. So that'll be sort of towards the end. It is important, though, to really understand the health risks of not being very physically active. I think people often think of weight when it comes to physical activity. I'm going to mention this later, but I do want to bring it up now. What you eat, what you put in your mouth, is 80% of your weight management. Physical activity is like 20% of your weight management. But that doesn't mean that physical activity is not super, super important. And you can reach your weight goals a lot faster if you are exercising, but you can also be very unhealthy and be thin and be sedentary. And I think that's a very important point to make, and one that people don't think about a lot, because they look at your body type and they think, oh, that person must be healthy, but that's not always true. 28% of people are completely inactive. This is, the CDC does all these polls all the time. 44% are what we would kind of consider not regularly active. Only 16% are moderately active, and I would consider moderate the people who are getting the recommended amount of exercise, which, as you'll see, really isn't a whole lot. We've got 8% moderate to vigorously active, and only 4% at like sort of a vigorously active type level. That's 72% of people reporting not enough physical activity in this country. So that's a pretty high statistic, I think. Why is that a problem? Well, about 24 million people have diabetes. That's 11% of the U.S. population has diabetes. 41 million Americans are currently estimated to have pre-diabetes. And most people with pre-diabetes will get diabetes within 10 years. Unless you make changes to your lifestyle. And that's not, so this is like before they would put you on diabetic med, you might go to the doctor and they might say to you, you're really at risk for pre-diabetes. Most of those people will get diabetes within the next 10 years. Diabetes is a very difficult disease to manage. It's very expensive. It really cramps your style, if I can just put it lightly. So most people who are pre-diabetic, we're looking at probably suggesting that they lose between 5 and 7% of their body weight to remove themselves from the risk category. So that's not a lot, but it is a lot. When you look at the reality of trying to lose 5% of your body weight, that may seem daunting, but it's possible. It is only 5%. It's possible. And last year, 785,000 Americans had a coronary heart attack, basically. Another 470,000 had a recurrent, so like their second or third heart attack in the same year. People who are inactive, oh, that's supposed to be next. People who are inactive are 2 times as likely to develop coronary artery disease than moderately active people. So, like I was saying before, when you're talking about weight management is not necessarily the most important reason to exercise. Sometimes, you know, these other chronic diseases are way more important in your long-term health. You can have clean arteries, and you can not be diabetic, and you can have good, you know, blood glucose and good cholesterol, good triglycerides, and be 20 or 30 pounds overweight and be perfectly happy and live a really long time and have a great life. But you can also be at a danger for all these things and be inactive. So Americans in this country really, I think our culture is to look for a pill, a magic pill that will fix our problems, our lack of physical activity. And I think that our built environment, so when we talk about like elevators and transportation, you know, we don't have good transportation in the cities, and rural Americans, you know, really can't get anywhere, not even to the grocery store without a car. And so our environment does work against us. It's a lot harder to be healthier now in 2016 than it was 50 years ago, especially, you know, 100 years ago. We have a lot of great things. Technology can be great, but it can also really work against us. I want to show you a video. It's going to take about 5 minutes. It's a longer video. I'm kind of hoping none of you have seen it, but if you have seen it, it's always a good reminder. This is by a guy whose name is Mike Evans. He's a doctor, and I want to get his title right. He is he's a staff physician at St. Michael's Hospital. He's an associate professor of family medicine at the University of Toronto, and he's a lead digital preventative medicine fellow at the Li Ka-shing Knowledge Institute. He's got a whole series of these videos. They're excellent. We're just going to watch 5 minutes of it, and I hope that you agree that it was worth our time.
Hi, Dr. Mike Evans, and welcome to this visual lecture I'm calling 23 and a half hours. So I have a big interest in preventive medicine, you know, which can mean a lot of things from, you know, cancer screening to eating more fiber to having a good social network, and I mean that in the old sense of the word. Weighing less, drinking less, smoking less, controlling your blood pressure, cholesterol, and so on and so forth. So all of these things are incredibly important, and I wouldn't want you to minimize your efforts in any one category, but I want to know what comes first. What has the biggest impact? What has the biggest return on investment? What makes the biggest difference to your health? So I did my research, and I found an answer, at least for me, and it's tricky because, you know, all these things are sort of overlapping. But I picked out this intervention, and because of its breadth, it worked for so many different health problems, and that's what I found so cool about it. So just to kind of walk you through a quick list. So this intervention in patients with knee arthritis who receive 1 hour of treatment 3 times a week reduced their rates of pain and disability by 47%. In older patients, it reduced progression to dementia and Alzheimer's by around 50%. For patients at high risk of diabetes and coupled with other lifestyle interventions, it reduced progression to frank diabetes by 58%. Postmenopausal woman who had 4 hours a week of the treatment had a 41% reduction in the risk of hip fracture. It reduced anxiety by 48% in a big meta-analysis. Patients suffering from depression, 30% were relieved with low dose, and that bumped to 47% as we increased the dose. Following over 10,000 Harvard alumni for over 12 years, those that had the intervention had a 23% lower risk of death than those who didn't get the treatment. It's the #1 treatment of fatigue, and of course the kind of outcome of choice, my favorite outcome is quality of life, which is really all of the above and really about making your life better. And this treatment has been shown over and over again to improve quality of life. So the question is, what's the medicine, and what is 23.5 hours? So the medicine was exercise, mostly walking, so not triathlons. And let me just put it a different way. I think what I'm asking you to do is, if you think about your typical day, so there's 24 hours, and so you might spend most of your day, this varies obviously, but couch surfing, sitting at work, obviously sleeping. And what the evidence that I'm going to show you kind of tells me is the best thing you can do for your health is to spend half an hour being active, maybe an hour, and that if you can do that, you can realize all the benefits I've described in the previous slides. So let's just take a quick walk through some of the literature. So Stephen Blair, he's a professor at the Arnold School of Public Health at the University of South Carolina, and he looked at this in what's called the Aerobic Center Longitudinal Study, which followed over 50,000 men and women over time. And along the left side of this graph is something called attributable fractions, which is a kind of fancy word, but it's the estimate of the number of deaths in a population that would have been avoided if that specific risk factor had been erased. So for example, turning a smoker into a non-smoker, or a couch potato into a daily walker. And along the bottom is the typical risk factors. You can see the hypertension is incredibly important, and so on and so forth. But the one that was that kind of applied the most risk was this sort of mysterious CRF, which is cardiorespiratory fitness, which is really low fitness. So low fitness was the strongest predictor of death. And this is important that most of the trials we see, to be honest, are funded by pharma or other companies because they've got a drug for hypertension or high cholesterol or diabetes, and we rarely see fitness thrown into the mix, and so it's nice to see a trial that's not so siloed. Blair's work is interesting. He also did another trial looking at obesity. What he found was, sort of two things. One is obesity and no exercise. That's a very bad combination, and that's where we saw many of the negative consequences of obesity from a health point of view. But if the obese person was active, even if they didn't have the weight loss, but were just active and obese, that was much, much better, and that the exercise ameliorated much of the negative consequences of obesity.
So, please feel free to watch the rest of that on your own. That's kind of the gist of it. It's a 10-minute video. He's got some great videos on all sorts of other health risk factors, and they're all that sort of whiteboard style. I think they're pretty engaging. But, I mean, as you can see, if you can put exercise in a pill, it would really solve a lot of problems. Someone could just take a little exercise pill every day. It would really solve a lot of problems. So we know that exercise can benefit you. We can see that it reduces the risk of dying. Great. Reduces the risk of dying from heart disease. Even better. The risk of diabetes. I'll take that. High blood pressure. Great. Don't want that one either. And it helps reduce blood pressure in people who already have high blood pressure. But not just those things. It has also been shown in many studies to reduce the risk of developing colon cancer, to reduce the feelings of depression and anxiety, to control your weight, to help maintain healthy bones, to help older adults become stronger and more resilient in their environments, and also improves your mood. So to put it real simply, and just sort of to close out this section of the talk, is that the CDC basically puts out there that regular physical activity performed on most days of the week reduces the risk of dying or developing some of the leading causes of death in the United States. So hopefully that's enough proof. I think we're good on proof. Okay. So why don't people exercise though? If it's so great, what's the holdup? Why aren't we doing it? And I do want to talk a little bit about this, like what are some frequent barriers to exercise, and if you personally don't have these barriers, you know somebody, I guarantee, who does have these issues or who uses some of these barriers, and perhaps you can help them, combat some of them also. So the first one, the biggest one, I think personally, after being a personal trainer for 10 years, is I don't have the time. Who has the time? I don't have the time. I got 2 kids. I got a full-time job. I got dogs. My husband brought home chickens the other day. I mean, I don't have time. I'm with you on that. The problem is if you don't make time for exercise, all these other things start to fall away. So like personally for me, exercise is a big stress reliever for me, and I recognize that it's a stress reliever for me. So even when I don't want to exercise, sometimes I need to exercise but it takes a long time to develop that sort of habit and sort of to recognize some of those things. But if we don't start making the time for exercise, there will never be time, and you will run out of time, I think is the long short of that one. So you've got to make time. You've got to find the time. And we're going to talk about strategies to find time, but that's the biggest one. Another one I often heard or hear is that I'm too self-conscious. People do not want to go into a gym. People do not want to work out with other people. And I think there are a lot of ways to combat this. The biggest one, though, is to gain self-confidence in physical activity that does not involve being in front of other people to begin with. So making time, either walking on your own, like just walking. That video that I showed you, that doesn't get any more technical than that. All he does is talk about walking for 30 minutes a day. That's it. So even if it's just walking around your block, walking your dogs, playing with your kids in the playground, things like that, you don't always have to be in a class with other people at a gym in gym clothes to exercise. None of my friends or family exercise. This is a big one, and unfortunately this is one that we don't have as much control over as we would like to. It's really, really hard, and it comes up again and again in this presentation. It's really hard to exercise and to create healthy habits when you don't have support behind you. So we're going to talk about strategies for that one, but that is a real thing, not having support from your friends and family. I'm too tired. Yep, definitely. If I don't get it done early in the day, it's probably not going to get done. For me, I recognize that. I do my best to really get it done early in the day, but I can pretty much abandon the idea of getting it done if I don't get it done earlier in the day. So I hear that one. I don't know, people who are like, I always feel better I always feel like more energy when I exercise in the morning. I don't know if I feel like that. Sometimes I'm really tired after I exercise in the morning, but at least I got it done. I have to see a doctor before I start, and I do think that some people who have a lot of health risks do feel this way. You don't need to see a doctor if you want to walk around the block. And we want you to see a doctor if you are thinking about taking up some strength training, or you're thinking about seeing a personal trainer, or you're thinking about doing a 5K. Yeah, go for it. But you do not need a doctor if you want to walk around the block. I don't know how to get started. Again, people feel, I like to call this analysis paralysis. You know these people. These are the people that are like, well, I was doing some research, and I think I might start the Beachbody program, but I'm not sure, because da-da-da, and then my friend was talking about, and then they just don't do anything. So, again, you can start walking. You can walk. I'm too out of shape. Yes. How many times have we heard the success story, though, of the guy who weighed like 400 pounds and started with a walk around the block, and now he's 100 pounds down and he's running 5Ks? I've heard that story 5, 6, 7, 8 times. So it's just about starting small, starting with low expectations, and moving on from there. And we're going to talk about all that stuff later, too. I don't have enough space or the right equipment. I hear that. I often hear that. I don't have a gym membership. I don't have anywhere in my house to exercise. I kind of think that that's a bad one. That's a bad excuse. You're looking for excuses at that point. If that's your excuse, we need to abandon that one. Some of the other ones we got to work with. You know, we have to devise strategies around. That one, I'm going to probably dismiss that one if someone would come to me as a trainer and tell me that one. So, what is the prescription? What do we want you to do? What is the recommended amount of exercise? It's very simple. It's 150 minutes a week, which sounds like a lot, but it turns out to 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, at a moderate intensity. What's moderate intensity? Moderate intensity is getting your heart rate up. So one of the problems I have with a lot of people is when they have active jobs, and they think, well, I walk all day at work, or I'm a construction, you know these guys who are overweight that are construction workers, and they think that that's enough exercise, but they're probably not getting their heart rates up. And I'm not going to go into heart rate study. You know when your heart rate is up. You get your heart rate up, try to keep it up for like 30 minutes yourself. You don't need to wear a heart rate monitor. You can if you're into numbers. And if you think that will motivate you, that's great. But on a scale of 1 to 10, do you feel out of breath at like a 5 or a 6? That's plenty. That's what we're talking about by moderate intensity. Then people want to know, the next question is, well, how long do I have to do that? How long do I have to exercise? And unfortunately, exercise is like, your blood pressure meds that your doctor is going to tell you have to be on, how long do you want the benefits for? How long do you want to have low blood pressure? Well, that's probably how long you have to take that blood pressure medicine, or lose some weight or whatever. Once you start exercising, it needs to be something that you know that you're going to be committed to, like, forever. So that may be the worst news I'm giving you today, but it is true. You want to develop a habit. You want to get it in your head that this is something I want to do for myself, this is something I want to do for my grandchildren or for my husband or whatever, and then you want to just do it forever. So that's probably the worst news. So what exactly are, just to sort of dive a little bit deeper into the prescription, I like to call it, is we're talking about frequency and intensity and time. And I want to blow up this graph a little bit, because say that you don't like walking, or that you already are doing an exercise program, or you've been thinking about strength training. I think one of the most important things about exercise is to find something that you like. If I can give you one piece of really good advice, it's to find something that you like. Don't try to force yourself into a habit of something that you don't enjoy. If you don't enjoy it, you are not going to stick with it. I'll tell you that right now. I picked up a lot of habits over the time that you think, oh, I want to be I'm going to be a 6 a.m. workouter. Well, yeah, I hate working out at 6 a.m. So, I know that I'm not going to stick with that. So, what are we talking about if you like some other different types of exercise? Cardiovascular endurance, that's anything aerobic. Cycling, running, dog walking, canoeing, elliptical, anything that is your cardiovascular fitness. We'd like for you to do it 5 times a week, maybe 3 times a week for a little bit longer. So that 150 minutes can get split up. You could do 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes at night, 5 times a week. You could do 75 minutes of really intense exercise twice a week. Although that's a little bit tougher of a habit to keep up with if you're looking at starting a new program. We want your intensity to be moderate, and we want you to go for at least 30 minutes. Now, the reason why the 3 times a week is here is because if you're mixing it with, like, say, yoga, or you're mixing it with strength training, then you don't necessarily have to go 5 times a week of cardio if you're mixing it up. And I don't want to overcomplicate things, so I'm going to try to pull myself back here. So if you like strength training, or you like to go to the gym and take a body combat class, or body pump, or any of these sort of strength building classes, 2 to 3 times a week. And as a personal trainer, I would always tell people 2 to 3 times a week, non-consecutive days. If you can strength train 2 days in a row, you probably didn't strength train hard enough the day before, because you really want to tire your muscles out. And I think that that is a really big misconception, especially with women. I see it all the time. People pick up, I say, okay, we're going to do a chest press. Go grab some weights. These are big muscles, You should be able to, and they'll go grab like 5 pounds. How many reps do you think you can do with 5 pounds before you get tired? Probably like 30 or 40. So we want to do 2 to 3 times a week. I want you to exhaust your muscles within, say, 15 or 20 reps of an exercise. So if you're gonna do a bicep curl, which as a personal trainer is like one of my least favorite exercises in the world, I think it's completely useless. But I'm going to use that as an example. If I'm going to do a bicep curl, I want to do, say, 15 or 20 of them, and I want to not have any more to do in that 15 or 20. I don't want to have been able to do 30 and I stopped at 15 because I wasn't using enough weight. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your time at the gym. If you're giving yourself time at the gym, don't waste it. Use it. Use it wisely. So 2 to 3 times a week, non-consecutive days. Flexibility, that's like yoga, that's stretching in front of your TV, that's like stretching in the shower. I sometimes stretch in the shower. And this can be really short, but it is important to stretch, and it is important to stay limber. And if you have time for yoga, and if you love yoga, then great. Do it. Pilates, all that stuff is really good. It says at least 3 times a week, but that's counting like if you go for a walk and you want to do a little bit of leg stretches when you're done, that kind of thing. So, I feel like I overcomplicated that, but does anybody have any specific questions about this slide? Everyone's good on? Okay, all right. So, this just illustrates, this is kind of a silly slide, but it illustrates, breaking up that 30 minutes into smaller chunks. 120. But at least she was walking, and how many of us sit in front of our computers like for hours on end and not get up and walk around? So that does, it's silly, but it illustrates this point. This is one of my favorite comic slides. I like this one. And I feel like this one has a lot to say there. So it's up to you, right? What fits your schedule better? So moving on. What I want to do now is I want to hand out, I have this worksheet here, and you can do it in your head, you can actually write something down. I always like for people to leave a lunch and learn with some actionable items, so if you write it down, I would be pleased with that, but it's up to you. We're going to start with the barrier column, so don't worry about the other side yet, okay? So what I want you to do is I want you to just think about some of the barriers that we talked about before, and if any of them are applicable to you, you're welcome to use those. Or perhaps you might, I think I gave some. Here you go. So if you want to actually write something down, I'd like for you to work on 3. I'm only asking you to come up with 3 obstacles that are keeping you from being physically active today, if that's one of your problems. And if you are just here to get the credit and you're already very physically active, perhaps you can think about somebody in your life who does need this to create better habits as far as being physically active. And maybe you can think, well, what would so-and-so say? What would my mom say? What excuse would she give me for not exercising more? So even if you're a very healthy person, maybe you can use this exercise to help strategize for somebody else. And you'll have some better ways of dealing with that person when you see them. So I'm just going to give you another minute or so to think about it. And I'm not going to call you out. I'm not going to say, you're welcome to share if you want to, but try to come up with at least 3. I put myself into a vigorously active category, and I can think of 3 reasons why I don't have to exercise on certain days. So everyone should be able to come up with something. Okay, great. Did everyone at least put something down? Okay, great. Okay. So, did anyone write time? Does anyone use time? I'm going to use time as an example because a lot of people usually use time. So now I want you to start thinking, we're going to start thinking about strategies for the barriers that you've given. So using time as an example, the average American spends 24 years sleeping and 13 years watching TV. If we live to be 75, we spend half of our lives sleeping and watching TV. So I am not suggesting that you cut your sleep to exercise, because sleep might be paramount to exercise when it comes to health and mood, and the benefits of sleep are great. But I am someone who does walk on the treadmill while I watch TV. And nowadays, with our phones and streaming media and iPads and iPods and whatever, it's very easy to walk or listen. I listen to podcasts when I run. I'm super nerdy though, like that. That's sort of a weird thing that I do. But so a lot of times I'll actually use my TV watching guilty pleasure as a reason to exercise. Because I'll say, well, if I really want to watch the Grey's Anatomy, I'm going to make myself walk on the treadmill while I'm watching it. Not everybody has a treadmill, and I understand that. But there are other types of exercise that you can do while you're watching. You can do the exercises on this sheet with your brand new resistance bands while you're watching Grey's Anatomy. Okay? So I'm just going to use that as an example. But I would like for you to spend a minute thinking about the reasons you gave that are your obstacles, and what are some ways that you can combat that. So another thing is I have a time commitment problem with my children and my job and my own free time, and I exercise while I'm with them. Kids are supposed to get an hour a day of exercise, and we don't always get out there. We don't always get a chance to do that, but I don't really feel like playing soccer with my 4-year-old, but it is exercise, and I'll do it, and it's I should say that. Of course I won't play soccer with my 4-year-old. But sometimes I'm tired, you just watch your kids play. So, go ahead, everybody. Solutions. If you wrote something down, I want you to write. You must write something in the solution category if you wrote something in the obstacle category, because that's what we're here for today. We're here to come up with solutions to our problems. Do you have a question? Do you have a tough one?
I just don't have a solution.
You want to share what the problem?
Initiative, getting my
Motivation.
Yeah.
That's a great, actually, this is a great example. Great. So you guys have maybe heard about vision boards or things like this in other aspects of your life, right? You need to make a list. If you were my personal training client, I would tell you to make a list of things that are important to you. And it could be things that are completely unrelated to exercise, but you'll see that they'll cycle back around. So like, exactly. You want to be around for your kids? Right there is a good reason to exercise. Or you want to be able to go up and down the stairs, or you don't want to be like your grandparent who is in a home at 70 because they have complications of diabetes. I mean, there are a lot of, when you really start drilling down, hopefully you can think of something. Does anybody else have any that they want to share that we can help you work through? Okay.
Arthritis pain.
That's a great question. Did you know that there are a ton of studies that show that light exercise actually helps to alleviate arthritic pain? Swimming can be wonderful for arthritis, and as can Pilates. It doesn't always have to be vigorous. It doesn't have to be Zumba. It doesn't have to be, we're not talking about, what's that?
5K.
A 5K, yeah, right. It does not have to be that. So trying out different types of exercise and then monitoring your symptoms to see if you do have any sort of alleviation of your symptoms when you are doing certain types of exercise. Sometimes a little bit of light strength training can also help improve arthritis problems. I've seen that with a lot of my clients. Okay, good. All right, does everyone feel like, oh, I thought of something? Okay, we'll move on. So the next activity is to actually develop some goals. And so we're going to talk a little bit about SMART goals. I have these SMART goal handout sheets, so I'm going to send these around. SMART goals, SMART is an acronym. It gets used a lot People use it in all types of goal setting. It's like the first thing that you learn if you're going to be like a counselor and help people with goal setting of any type, career counselors, school counselors, whatever. So the SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-based. So one of my biggest problems with clients as a personal trainer was always getting people to sort of stick with the goals they set, or they set really unrealistic goals. Like I just know, on the way here, I was talking to my niece, who was like, I need to lose 40 pounds. Okay, and I have talked to her, she's been my niece since she's been alive, and I have talked to her many times about this. But you can't just say, I want to lose 40 pounds. That can't be your goal. Your goal has to be, I would like to lose 40 pounds over the next year by doing blank, blank, and blank in this amount of time. Do you know what I'm saying? Because you'll lose 2 pounds in the next week or two and not feel like a success because you don't feel like that's very close to 40. Do you know what So people have a really hard time, and I feel like goal setting with physical activity is something that people really get blocked up on. This is part of the analysis paralysis. So this worksheet, and this may be a little heavy duty for right now, but I do want you to look at the back of it. What we're asking you to do is set, I would say, 1 to 3 goals. And what I want you to do is really work on them being realistic, time-based. So how long do you expect that it will take you to accomplish what you're trying to do? Is it measurable? Can you say, obviously weight is measurable, but if you just say, I want to be able to run a marathon, well, how are well, I guess marathons are measurable too, but, there are a lot of goals that people set that are not, they don't have any way of knowing if they're getting anywhere closer to them. And then what you're going to do is you're going to write down the steps that it would take you to reach those goals. And then you're going to write down 3 different ways to reward yourself when you reach some goals. And I feel like when people have something to look forward to, that's always very beneficial. And then we've already sort of done the challenges and solutions part of it. So you don't have to do this right now, but I would like for you to do this. If you're going to take the time to come to something like this and this is something you want to do in your life, this is a great way to do it. And then show it to somebody. Does this look all right to you? Like, does this, can we help me accomplish these goals? And I know that sounds really cheesy, but like when you say it out loud to somebody, it makes it real. And I think that that's something, as a trainer, I was very lucky because I was always on the receiving end of other people's goals and I can help them attain them. But sometimes people just kind of keep those things bottled up. I would like to run a 5K one day, but then they never tell anybody and they never do anything about it. If you tell somebody about it, they're going to ask you, hey, how's that 5K training going? Okay, so that's SMART goals. Any questions about how we write SMART goals? David? Okay. So people who are successful, what are they doing differently than the people who don't succeed? Well, they have confidence in their ability. So they're confident that they can do it. And I think that that's a big one. They have support, another huge one. They've got people asking them, checking in on them. When it comes to sort of weight loss and nutrition management, not having support can be a huge buzzkill because you come home and you're trying to do good all day and then your family doesn't like what you've prepared. You have to make 2 separate meals. And it's the same thing with exercise. If you can't get anybody to go with you, trying to find a support system is really, really important. People who are successful value the benefits of it. So they're looking and they're saying, this is healthy for me, I feel better. They're reminding themselves of the small successes. I really slept great last night. I exercised yesterday. That might be connected, et cetera, et cetera. They set realistic goals, like we were just talking about. They don't have, these sort of lofty things. They're really working on setting small goals that are realistic, that are accomplishable, that you can celebrate a success with, and then move on to the next thing. I always told people as a personal trainer, start with 5 pounds. Like, let's not start with, I know you need to lose 40, but like, let's start with 5. Because when you hit 5, then we're going to have a little celebration, and then we're going to go 5 more, is what we're going to do. And people are like, oh, well, that's a good idea. So sometimes you have to say it out loud. I have support twice. Well, it's really important. Okay. Why can't people stay motivated? What is the problem? We're going to talk about it. This happens all the time. You go like gangbusters for a month, or who started P90X, or who has started the 21-day fix, or the Couch to 5K program on your phone. Okay, probably all started it. Why did you give up? It was very stressful. People often abandon these things. They deprioritize exercise. If exercise has not been a priority in your life, and you try to make it one, and then something comes up, a big life event, it will be the first thing to go, because you're not, you don't have the habit of it. So that's one reason. My friends and family did not support me. I'm going to go to the gym. Why are you going to the gym? Gym's stupid. We know these people, and they're real downers. I lost confidence in myself, or you hurt yourself. That's another one that I don't have on this list. The benefits came too slowly. People don't like it when I would tell them that I wanted them to lose a pound a week. They don't like that. They want to hear that they're going to lose 7 pounds in the first week. They want to hear it like the advertisement say it on TV. They want to see the Biggest Loser. If I'm paying for a personal trainer, I want to see Biggest Loser losses. It's like, well, I'm not a TV show, and you were still working, and you don't have a personal chef. So people do not want to hear that they want to lose. But it goes on slowly. It doesn't go on 7 pounds a week. It goes on slowly. They failed to reach their goal. They lost motivation. Temptation was too great, and it was too hard. The thing that summarizes this the best, and the biggest piece of advice I can give you is never to worry about those things that happen, the stressful thing that happened, or I didn't reach my goal. What makes or breaks better habits, or what makes or breaks people's better health, is what happens after that. Do you have the ability to have it was a bad weekend, it was Brewfest, and I was out with my son had a birthday party, or, I had cake. What did I do Monday? Did I say, well, I had a really bad weekend, so I'm not, it's what is next. Or my father passed away, and I had to do, I had to move my mother, and then did this, and then, or my kid's home from college, and he's out with his friends, and I was up all night. Yes, that is life. Those things happen. What now? Can you wake up today and do something today? Can you make time today again? Because you were doing great. It's people with their tracking apps and whatever, they're doing great. And then, what happened? And it's a million excuses what happened, but I never get a really good reason why they're not starting again. So if you can put those things behind you, and just every day is a new day. Eventually that's how you create habits. That's how things get better. So I said this before, and it is a physical activity presentation, but I do have to say that you can't outrun your fork. That's the only thing I'm going to say about nutrition. If weight management is your goal, you can't outrun your fork. Okay, so just throwing that in there. So, some general tips. I know it says exercise in the morning, and I said earlier, don't exercise in the morning if you don't think you can exercise in the morning, if you hate exercising in the morning. But if time and tiredness are two of your big things, then you need to try to exercise in the morning. Because when it's done, it's done. Schedule exercise. Put it on your calendar. Tell people, no, I come in at 8 or I come in at 9 on a Monday because I go to this class, or I have to leave the office today at 5 because I got to get to the gym by 5:30. You have to put it on your calendar. You have to make it a priority. Finding a buddy. Get somebody to go with you. Get somebody to walk with you at lunch. Tell people that this is something that you want to have happen, and people will help you. You really have to start relying on other people. And starting slowly. Don't make it a 5K to start with. We're going to Just go around the block to start, and to keep those expectations low until you really feel confident. So, no, okay. So I do want to talk about what are the actual tools. There are a ton of really cool electronic tools to help you get started. And I wrote these all down, so you don't have to write them down. I'm going to pass this around. I want to go through them really, really quick. I'm just going to give you the 20,000-foot view of what these do. MyFitnessPal and Lose It are food trackers, but they're also exercise trackers. They are great. As a personal trainer, it was my #1 tool that I used with people. Okay, you don't even have to pay for a personal trainer. I'm telling you right now. That's what you do. Track your food, track your exercise, you'll be all set. Fooducate is really cool. This is an app that you put on your phone. It's free. And you can go to the grocery store and you can scan a food, and it will tell you, it will give you an A through F grade on healthy. Not only that, but it will tell you what is better in that same category. So if it's cereal, and you get a D on your cereal because of all the sugar or whatever, it will give you examples of other cereals that get better grades. So that is an awesome app. It's free. Fitbit, obviously. I got myself a new job. I always felt like I was sitting too much. I got a Fitbit. I love it. I kind of love it. I didn't think I would. I resisted. All the years I was a personal trainer, I never had a Fitbit. Now I have one. I love it. Pact is an app that you can make real money by exercising or eating better. You put your credit card in, you owe them money if you don't do it. I use it. I've made like $7. I only started like a couple weeks ago. Daily Burn. With the stream, I wanted to include a good streaming app. You don't have money for a gym, the gym's too far away, but you have an iPhone or you have a computer at home. Things like Daily Burn or Beachbody.com, the streaming services, it's $13 a month. It's not a huge investment. You get tons of different, they have 5-minute videos, 30-minute videos, hour-long videos, super hard, super easy, pregnant women, yoga, Pilates. I mean, it's great. $13 a month. It's awesome. Charity Miles, I haven't looked into this, but evidently you can put information in here and you log money for your favorite charity if you exercise. FitStar is another one I don't know a whole lot about, but it came up on a search that I was doing. The Johnson & Johnson 7-minute workout, I thought this sounded cool. I haven't tried this, but it's only 7 minutes, and you get a fit test in the beginning, so they have different types of 7 minutes depending on how fit you are. Right? So I'm going to get a different set of exercises than somebody over here who's a non-exerciser. So that is another really cool. It got great reviews. And then Map My Fitness. I always think it's really fun to know where I ran. So Map My Fitness, Map My Run, Map My Bike, they got bought by Hammer Strength now, or Under Armour, I'm sorry. But that's a great way because you can see how many calories you burn on your walk. You just turn it on, it's free. Turn it on when you start walking, go out for your walk or run, come back, you see how far you went, you see how fast you went, you see how many calories you burned, you see if you were faster than the last time you did that route. So those are all really great tools. In person, so real people tools to help you succeed. We talked about this, friends and family, pets, fitness classes. I'm a big proponent of fitness classes. If you can afford a gym membership, because when you go to the gym, people say, hey, I can see you here on Monday or whatever. So I do really think that that is a good, if you're having trouble with support at home, that is a great alternative because you will meet people who will be encouraging and helpful to you in your life. And work friends. And so just to close up, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single footstep. So just to encourage you to sort of take it slow and think of small things that you can do. But I do want to have, if there's any questions, I do want to answer any questions that you might have. Super technical, non-technical. Did I cover everything? Does everyone feel like they have a strategy today? Just finish that video, Dr. Mike Evans. When you need motivation, finish that video.